You know, if you told me a 7-minute cartoon about a family of Australian talking dogs would consistently have grown adults literally sobbing into their cereal, I would have said you were crazy. But here we are. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're not looking at some dense academic paper or a complex financial model. Nope, we are diving deep into the surprisingly profound, beautifully structured, emotional layers of Bluey. If you've ever wondered why this show hits so close to home, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to break down the psychological masterclass this show delivers on parenting, perfectionism, and the crazy metrics we use to measure our own success.
We are kicking things off today with what might just be the most tear-jerking quote in modern television. It comes from a character known simply as Coco's mom, who happens to be a mother of 8. "You're doing great." Just 4 words, right? But they strike directly at the universal, exhausting vulnerabilities of parenting. It's this incredible moment of pure grace that completely cuts through the anxiety of modern life. But to truly understand why this moment hits like a freight train, we really have to look at the pressures that build up to it. Which brings us to part 1, the pressure of perfection. Let's dive right into our first major theme and unpack the absolute crushing weight of trying to be perfect. It's a massive struggle shared by parents and kids alike. So in the episode literally titled Perfect, we actually watch Bluey descend into this totally relatable perfection-induced meltdown. She's just trying to make a Father's Day card for her dad Bandit, but she goes through multiple agonizing attempts. First, she wants to draw them standing together flawlessly. When that doesn't work, she tries to capture these dynamic moments, like her dad tickling her or throwing her like a boomerang, but she just keeps erasing and trashing her work. She's getting incredibly frustrated because she fully believes her art has to be absolutely flawless to even earn a spot on the fridge. She is basically paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake.
But what really hits the nail on the head here is how Bandit responds when he discovers her frustration. He validates her struggle by admitting his own flaws. He tells her, "I'm not perfect. Parenting is tough. Drawing is tough too." He reminds her that she's tough, and at the end of the day, that is what actually matters. It's a masterful way of showing us that neither creating art nor raising kids is ever this flawless, pristine process. It's about the effort, the messiness, and having the resilience to just keep trying.
Now, this pressure doesn't just pop up when we're trying to draw a nice card, right? It actually stems from how we measure growth in the first place, which leads us to a fascinating question. Why on earth do we turn milestones into a literal race? Why do we constantly feel the need to compare our own progress or our kids' developmental milestones to everyone else around us?
To figure that out, we've got to look at the legendary Baby Race episode. It vividly maps out Bluey's entirely unconventional timeline to walking, and you get a front-row seat to her mother Chili's spiraling anxiety as it all goes down. So Bluey starts out rolling over super early, which obviously gives Chili a bit of an ego boost. But then, as another baby named Judo starts pulling up on furniture, Bluey takes a complete detour. She starts bum shuffling on the floor. Then, get this, she starts crawling backwards. And it isn't until much, much later, seemingly out of nowhere in the kitchen, that she finally takes her first steps.
And you can literally feel Chili's anxiety peaking when she admits, "Some babies just bum shuffle before they crawl, but I wasn't having that." Even when the pediatrician totally reassures her that it's completely normal, Chili is determined to intervene. She even tries rubbing olive oil on Bluey's knees to force her to crawl normally. And this highlights a really painful truth. Parents so often internalize their child's timeline as a reflection of their own success. Chili honestly felt that because Bluey wasn't walking first, she was somehow failing as a mother.
All right, moving on to part 2, navigating sibling independence. Let's see how this whole concept of growth bleeds right into the bittersweet reality of kids needing their own space. We see this absolutely beautiful contrast in the bedroom episode. On one side, you've got Bluey's perspective, the absolute thrill of independence. She is so pumped to have her own room, happily taking charge of dividing up their shared belongings, picking who gets to keep the stuffed toy Gloria and who gets Lampy. But then you have her younger sister Bingo's perspective. Bingo is suddenly hit with a crushing reality of loneliness. Their shared sanctuary has been split up, and she's left missing her sister, constantly asking her mom to play messenger down the hallway.
And man, this just brilliantly shows how messy progress actually is. It's like a giant puzzle. They set up separate beds, they perfectly divvy up their stuffed animals, and they even do the official goodnights in separate rooms. But the separation anxiety kicks in. They start passing messages back and forth through mom, and ultimately, they navigate this new independence by sneaking right back into the exact same bed to sleep anyway. It proves that growing up doesn't happen all at once in a perfectly straight line. It's more like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Which brings us to part 3, the reality of losing.
This is a really interesting one, because growing up means figuring out how to fail.
Take the obstacle course episode. Bandit sets up this crazy backyard race, but he lays down some surprisingly hardcore rules for playing with his kids. He flat out refuses to let Bluey win easily, and when asked why, his logic is actually pretty sound. He insists that if she's just handed the victory on a silver platter because she's a kid, she'll never learn resilience. His whole philosophy is that overcoming obstacles requires actual practice. If you never lose, you literally never feel the drive to try and play better.
Which brings us to the highly ironic quote of the day: cheaters never prosper. See, during the obstacle course, Bluey initially cheats to win, and Bandit immediately calls her out on it. But, and here's the kicker, in the rematch, just to maintain his own undefeated streak, Bandit hypocritically cheats right back. But hey, the ultimate takeaway from the episode remains totally rock solid. Genuine victory requires real effort. At the very end of the episode, Bluey challenges Bandit to a game of Memory Snap, a game he notoriously hates because he always loses, and she beats him fair and square, proving that putting in the work and playing to your own strengths is how you actually succeed.
And that brings us to part 4, running your own race. This is the big one, guys. This is the overarching theme that ties all these brilliant psychological lessons together perfectly. Run your own race. What does that actually mean? Well, it means focusing entirely on your own progress, your own hurdles, and your own journey, rather than constantly comparing your timeline or achievements to the people around you. This is the exact piece of advice Chili passes down to Bluey when Bluey is doubting her own skills on the monkey bars compared to her friends.
And the only reason Chili knows this advice works is because she had to learn it the hard way. Going back to that baby race, Chili makes this incredibly vulnerable confession. She says, "Look, we were all learning to do things for the first time. I just felt like I was doing everything wrong." It's a really powerful reminder that parents are learning, stumbling, and figuring things out right alongside their kids. There is no instruction manual for this stuff.
So, how do we actually break out of this toxic cycle of comparison and self-doubt? Well, sometimes you just need an outside perspective. For Chili, that perspective came from Coco's mom, a veteran mother of 8 children. 8! She drops by Chili's house, takes one look around, sees the anxiety, sees the messy living room, and she completely understands the silent, crazy competition going on inside Chili's head.
She looks Chili dead in the eye and delivers the exact quote we started this explainer with: "You're doing great." Those 3 simple words immediately bring Chili to happy tears. It was exactly what she needed to hear. It finally gave her the emotional permission to stop competing, to stop agonizing over what Judo's mom thinks, and to start actually enjoying her child's unique, slightly backward, bum-shuffling journey. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect on today. In the crazy obstacle course of life, whether you're parenting a toddler, navigating your career, or just trying to figure yourself out, are you still running someone else's race, or are you ready to run your own? It is never too late to stop looking sideways at the competition and start celebrating the messy, imperfect, beautiful steps you are taking right now.